Let me answer the first part of that question. Of course, I think that impact rule is definitely a magnificent innovation for the IPL, and I say that because it has allowed many more Indian local players to get a chance to taste the IPL and to play in the IPL. Many players who otherwise would not have had the opportunity of playing in the IPL. And I think that's a great win for Indian cricket because there's another tier of young Indian players primarily who are getting opportunities to play and to, of course, knock on the doors of Indian cricket and add value. That's one. The second thing is with regard to the impact player has also given captains the opportunity to name their sides after the toss, which gives them the chance of playing that either specialist batter or specialist bowler or all-rounder. Many persons talk about this impact rule diluting the quality of the all-rounders, but I look at it on the other side of the fence. I think it pushes all-rounders to ensure that their skill sets are superior and could command a place as either a batter or a bowler. So there is a positive to that as well. I mean, if you're not a good all-rounder, not a quality all-rounder, I don't think this impact rule will help you, but it will push you to become better. That is how I see it. So thumbs up to this impact rule, and I hope that this continues. And more so, some persons have been asking about this being at ICC events. I really think it's more geared towards domestic T20 franchise tournaments where you want to give many more persons an opportunity to play. So that's my view on that. Well, I mean, I've done my predictions before the start of the tournament with Star Sports, of course. I did predict Gujarat Titans and RCB to be in the final. Those are the two teams that I predicted. So I can't change that prediction now. I'll have to remain with those two. Well, there are two things there, right? I mean, it's two separate roles. I mean, he's carried the role as captain of RCB for a number of years without, having the chance to lift the title. And now I think the franchise has gone in a different direction with Faf du Plessis. So to me, it's no longer a discussion point. He's taken that responsibility in the times when Faf, had his niggles and he played as an impact player. But I think Virat Kohli, the batter, is, one of the best that the world has seen. I think his record speaks for itself. One of the things that I enjoy about watching Virat Kohli is his insatiable thirst and intensity that he puts out every single time he steps to the crease. That alone shows that he has that attitude for success, which you don't often see from many of these current international players. So I think he's a fine example for any young player to follow in the way that he's prepared himself for the demands of international cricket, his lifestyle, and the way he plays the game. He plays the game raw with that passion to win, and for however long may that last. Well, I mean, there are many factors to take into consideration. The fact that Rohit Sharma has taken over the responsibility of all three formats of Indian cricket. He's played a lot of cricket, for most parts of years gone by. And sometimes as a cricketer, it gets to you. You also go through periods of slump that will take time for you to get out of it. Right here in India has had the example of Virat Kohli going through a little lean period before he jumped out of it. So I would not read too deep into it. Virat Kohli is a top class player. His record speaks for himself, and for him to carry the role as captain and as an opening batter, it's a very, very difficult role to carry. Not many players in the world have done that successfully. I can think of maybe Graham Smith opening the batting and leading his side, but I think he requires support in this time when he's not performing the bat. He has that World Test Championship challenge coming up, and many persons in India and supporters of Indian team will be worried because they're not seeing him produce with the bat in the IPL. Sunil Gavaskar as well offered his advice by asking him to take a break to freshen his mind. That might be an option that you want to consider. Maybe, of course, he's shared the responsibility to captain Mumbai Indians with Surya Kumar Yadav on a number of occasions. So maybe having that little bit of a buffer in time for him to focus on his batting could be an option too. But again, I'm sure Rahul Dravid and I'm sure the think tank at MI is pro Rohit Sharma and will do everything possible for him to be his best. So, I mean, I would say Ramir Sawan, but you wanted modern day current cricketers, right? I would say Karen Pollard is a guy, and I'm talking, West Indian centric. Karen Pollard is a guy who you see come and bat at the latter stages of a T20 game to finish a match. But he's a guy that looks at the numbers. He's a guy that works out bowlers and understands bowlers, what their strengths are at different stages of the game. So he'll know what a Harshal Patel will do. He'll know what a Jasprit Bumrah might try to do. He will talk about these things very openly, and that is why he's been so successful finishing the innings majority of times. I mean, always he's got that additional asset of his power, his reach, his size. But there's a lot of thought behind what he does as a batter, and it has worked to his advantage. And he's one of the players who started playing T20 cricket during the Stanford T20 era. I don't know if you all would recall that era of T20 cricket just prior to the IPL. So Karen Pollard was first picked by me to play in that Stanford tournament, and we picked Pollard primarily out of club cricket because he was one of the few guys in Trinidad and Tobago who struck the ball in the V's with power, right? And I've followed his story. I played alongside him for a long period of time. He's a player that looks at the numbers. He's a player that tries to process the numbers, and he uses that to his advantage, not only as a batter, but as a captain. And he uses that even in the Caribbean Premier League. That's a major part of what he does as a player. You mightn't see it in terms of his role that he plays in T20 cricket, but it's very much a central part of his preparation as a captain and as a batter. And then your second part of the question was any example of that going horribly wrong? Well, there are numerous examples during my playing time, and this might sound very funny to you all. So Patrick spoke about part of my era being in the 90s. So I played in a West Indian side where we had Secondly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, legends of West Indian cricket, legends of world cricket. A lot of our planning and preparation for Test match cricket back then hinged on sense of recall. So we would sit around planning for England, talking about Graham Thorpe, right? And Secretary Ambrose will be talking about Graham Thorpe and what he did against him in a county match. Mind you, that was 2 years ago he played against this guy. And we were still using that piece of information to bowl to Graham Thorpe. And I just want to share with you, back then Thorpe had a little bit of an issue with the ball going away from him, being caught as a lefty down in the corridor. And we labored as a team to get him out there. Mind you, that became one of his strengths, but we were not able to kind of track that because the data just wasn't available. And then we never interfaced with players as players interface with international players now. So with the franchise cricket, you have international players playing in the same dressing room with each other. So you understand players much better than yesteryear. So that is an example where the data that we had with minimal information was used in the wrong way, and we suffered the consequences of it. Of course, most definitely, it's a major part of IPL franchise setup. I mean, Freddie is here as well. I mean, we interface with the players, with the support staff as well. That is a central part of a team's preparation before they go to play. How that information is shared and how it's circulated is individual to that franchise. So a coach like Stephen Fleming, he will take all the information, crunch the numbers. MS Dhoni just the other day spoke about his decision-making process and the fact that it's done in a collective manner within his team. In a Chennai Super Kings setup, that information is not shared to everyone because the head coach, Stephen Fleming, he speaks about decluttering a player's mind, allowing these players to play with the freedom of not worrying about numbers and what has gone before, enjoying their cricket and keeping their mind focused on watching the ball and executing their skills. It's a very similar conversation I had 2 days ago with Hardik Pandya. So I was in Gujarat Titans team space. They have that in Ahmedabad in their team hotel. And I felt like I was in a social setting where there wasn't a professional sort of a stern professional objective for the people in that room. It was so family oriented, so relaxed, treating each other with so much respect, very conversational, and it's very much what Hardik Pandya told me. He said, what I try to do as a captain is to take away the stress of trying to win a match and just allow the players to enjoy themselves. He says he doesn't even talk to these players about these players being dropped. He is always supporting these players and telling these players, listen, you just go and enjoy your cricket, have fun. This is what we're trying to achieve. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. And he's created a relaxed environment, and look at the success that they're enjoying. So the information is there. Some franchises will share it with everyone and have a more intense environment, whereas the leadership in others will kind of, I would say, govern that to a large extent. It is not an exact science. So whatever works for you and the players and the support staff and the outcomes that you've enjoyed before, I guess that's a combination that we've got to decide as a collective. That's a very good question. So again, it has to be with that player and that decision-making process that the player makes with regard to his or her game. It is not something you can address with a broad brush, because you look at players from different parts of the world. Players are developed based on their coaching infrastructure that they have within their jurisdiction. So you look at West Indian players, the infrastructure is not so regimented. West Indian players are instinctive type cricketers. They're not players who go through a structure of an academy from grassroots program to the elite level to high performance. You look at a player from England. A player from England will go through that type of process. So they're very coached in their style and their approach to the game. And I'm not discriminating in one way or the other. That's just the landscape that you're dealing with. In India here as well, you have so many natural cricketers who come through from nowhere without any formal sort of coaching. And then when you find them, you have to polish them in a certain way. You have to now govern the information that you share with these players, because you don't want to take away from the individuality of the players. And just to drive home the point, and this is information that I'm aware of because I've been part of Cricket West Indies coaching development program. And while we were developing that certification program and development program, we were liaising with the ECB and their head of coaching there. What they have done and transformed in the recent past, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, they have shifted their coaching methodology from being sort of coached and instructional to being very outcome-based, which is very much the Australian model. So the Australians, if they want to teach you a cover drive, they'll just throw a full ball to you outside the off-stump if you're a kid and say, hit the ball in this region. They're not talking about you stepping your front foot to the pitch of the ball, getting your elbow to the ball and getting a nice throw and swing. They're more outcome-based. And I think the world is going into more outcome-based coaching, which is preserving the natural individual element of the player.